In 1314, a French nobleman named Jacques de Molay was burned alive in Paris. His screams echoed across the sky for nearly 20 minutes. But that is not even the worst part. What happened in the dungeons before his public execution was so horrifying that church officials demanded the records be destroyed. What if I told you the most creative minds in medieval France were not artists, poets, or architects, but executioners? These were not just butchers. They were engineers of human suffering who designed methods so precise, so calculated that they could keep a person conscious and screaming for weeks. By the end of this video, you will discover 3 torture methods so brutal that one was banned by the Catholic Church itself. Learn about the French aristocrat who invented punishments purely for his own entertainment. And see the device that could keep victims alive for an entire month while slowly destroying their bodies. But here is what nobody tells you, and this will change everything you think you know about medieval justice. Hit that subscribe button right now because 97% of viewers who watch this entire video are not subscribed. Do not be one of them. You are about to witness history's darkest secrets that textbooks deliberately leave out. Picture medieval France between 100 and 500 CE. You are living under the feudal system where your lord has absolute power over your life, your death, and everything in between. Justice is not about rehabilitation or even simple punishment. It is pure theater designed to demonstrate power. But here is what your history teacher never told you. These were not random acts of cruelty. Every scream, every broken bone, every drop of blood was calculated psychological warfare designed to control entire populations through terror. The French perfected this art form in ways that would make modern dictators jealous. They understood that physical pain was just the beginning. The real power came from breaking the human spirit while keeping the mind sharp enough to experience every second of agony. Imagine you are a peasant in 1300s France. You witness these punishments not as entertainment but as a clear message. This is what happens when you cross us. The psychological impact rippled through communities for generations. But the methods I am about to show you went far beyond mere punishment. They were psychological warfare designed to shatter the human soul while preserving the body just long enough to maximize suffering. And it starts with a device so ingenious in its cruelty that historians still debate whether anyone could have survived it. The year is 1387. You are chained inside a bronze bull the size of a real animal. But this is not just any prison. It is an oven. As flames lick the metal beneath you, your skin begins to sizzle against the bronze walls. But here is the truly diabolical part. French engineers installed acoustic pipes that transformed your screams into realistic bull sounds. The crowd outside hears animal roars, not human agony. Your final moments become a grotesque puppet show where your torture entertains the masses who have no idea they are listening to a human being die. Jean Froissart, the most trusted chronicler of medieval France, documented its use at Château d'Incens. He writes, "The sounds that emerged were so convincing that children in the crowd moved back in response, not knowing they mocked a dying soul." But here is what nobody tells you about the brazen bull. It was not designed to kill quickly. The bronze was heated to exactly 300 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to cause excruciating pain and second-degree burns, but not hot enough to kill immediately. Victims could survive for up to 6 hours, their voices gradually weakening until the bull's roars became whispers. Picture yourself in that crowd. You are laughing at what you think is an entertaining bull show. Children are clapping. Vendors are selling meat pies. Meanwhile, inches away from you, another human being is slowly cooking alive, and their dying screams are providing your afternoon's entertainment. The Catholic Church initially endorsed this method because it appeared humane to spectators. Only when Pope Urban VI witnessed one execution firsthand and realized what was happening did the Church demand it be banned. But by then, French nobles had already moved on to something worse. But this was nothing compared to what French nobles did to prisoners in their own homes. Because the next method turned human suffering into a multi-day public festival. Do not click away yet because what I am about to show you will completely change how you see medieval justice forever. It is dawn in medieval Paris at Place de Grève. Thousands of spectators have gathered. But this is not a celebration. It is a breaking wheel execution and it is designed to last for days. You are tied spread eagle to a large wooden wheel. The executioner uses an iron hammer to methodically break each of your limbs. First your fingers, then hands, wrists, forearms, upper arms. Each break is precisely calculated to shatter bone without severing arteries. But here is the truly horrifying part. This is just the beginning. Execution records from Place de Grève show that some victims survived on the wheel for up to 9 days. 9 days of being displayed in the public square with every major bone in their body systematically shattered while crowds gathered daily to watch them slowly die. Picture this. You are a spectator. In 1455, you bring your children to watch because this is considered educational. Street vendors sell food and drinks. Musicians play instruments. People place bets on how long the victim will survive. A human being's agony becomes a week-long community event. But here is what nobody tells you. French executioners were trained in basic anatomy. They knew exactly which bones to break to maximize pain while avoiding death. The femur break came last because it would cause fatal blood loss. Until then, you remained fully conscious, experiencing every moment of your body's systematic destruction. Winter executions were considered especially cruel because exposure would slowly freeze the victim while their broken bones prevented any movement for warmth. Summer executions brought dehydration and insects that would feed on open wounds while the victim watched helplessly. Records show crowds of up to 15,000 people would gather for popular breaking wheel executions. That is larger than most modern concert venues all gathered to watch one person die slowly over multiple days. However, the most disturbing part was not the torture itself. It was who was watching. Because French nobles had discovered that breaking the social bonds of empathy was just as important as breaking bones. I know this is getting incredibly dark, but if you are still watching, you are clearly as fascinated by history's brutal truths as I am. These are not just horror stories, they are windows into how power corrupts and why human rights matter today. Make sure you are subscribed because next week I am revealing the secret torture chambers discovered beneath the Palace of Versailles that were used right up until the French Revolution. But right now, we need to go even deeper into medieval France's darkest secrets. In 2019, archaeologists at Château du Rhône made a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about medieval imprisonment. Beneath the castle's main hall, they found dozens of bottle-shaped chambers containing human skeletons, still wearing shackles. These were oubliettes from the French word oublier, meaning to forget. Picture this. You are dragged to what looks like an ordinary castle floor. Suddenly, a trapdoor opens beneath your feet, and you plummet 15 feet into a stone chamber shaped like a bottle. The opening above is barely wide enough for your shoulders. Escape is impossible. But here is what nobody tells you about oubliettes. They were not designed to kill you quickly. These chambers were precisely engineered. Just wide enough at the bottom for you to lie down, but too narrow to stand upright. The curved walls made climbing impossible. A small drainage hole prevented flooding, but ensured you would never drown quickly. Bone analysis from Château du Rhône reveals the horrifying truth. Some prisoners survived in these chambers for months. Their bones show signs of malnutrition, but also healing from injuries. Proof they lived long enough for broken bones to begin mending in complete darkness. Imagine you are the lord of a medieval castle. Your enemies are not just executed, they are erased, dropped into chambers where their existence slowly fades from memory while they remain technically alive below your feet. Guests dining in your great hall literally sit above forgotten human beings, slowly starving to death. Some oubliettes included primitive food systems, just enough to keep prisoners alive longer. A piece of moldy bread lowered on a rope once every few days. Not mercy, but prolonged cruelty designed to extend suffering while maintaining plausible deniability. French court records from the 1400s show hundreds of disappeared political prisoners. Now we know where they went, into chambers specifically designed to make people vanish without technically executing them. But here is the most chilling discovery. Many skeletons were found in pairs. Political prisoners were not just isolated. They were forced to watch each other slowly die in adjacent chambers. Their suffering multiplied by witnessing their companions' agony. But there was one method so horrific that even hardened executioners refused to perform it, so brutal that French nobles had to import specialists from other countries just to operate the device. What you are looking at is called the Judas cradle, and it represents the absolute pinnacle of human cruelty. This pyramid-shaped seat does not just kill, it destroys the human spirit while keeping the body alive for weeks. Here is how it works, and I warn you, this is the darkest moment in this entire video. You are stripped naked and positioned above a sharp wooden pyramid. Ropes control your descent, lowering you slowly until the point penetrates your body. But here is the diabolical genius. The pyramid's angle and your body weight create constant pressure without immediately fatal damage. Medieval French physicians consulted on the Judas cradles designed to ensure maximum suffering duration. They understood enough anatomy to know exactly how to avoid major organs while causing unbearable agony. But here is what nobody tells you. This was not just physical torture. Victims were positioned facing other prisoners, forced to watch future victims' terror while experiencing their own slow destruction. The psychological impact was calculated to break resistance networks by demonstrating the ultimate consequence of opposition. By 1260, even the notoriously brutal medieval church declared the Judas cradle an offense against God's creation. Pope Alexander IV specifically banned its use, calling it a device of Satan that prolongs death beyond divine will. This led to the first official torture regulations in French history under King Louis, known as St. Louis. But here is the irony. These regulations did not ban torture. They just standardized it to be more merciful. Fast forward 500 years to the French Revolution. When revolutionaries stormed the Bastille and other medieval fortresses, they found torture chambers still containing these devices. The revolution's demand for quick, humane execution via guillotine was a direct reaction to centuries of prolonged torture methods. These medieval torture methods did not just disappear. They evolved into the psychological understanding that led to the Geneva Conventions and modern human rights law. Every protection we have today exists because someone in history experienced its absence. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 5, specifically prohibits torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. This language exists because medieval France proved exactly how creative human cruelty could become when left unchecked. So what does this all mean? These torture methods did not just shape medieval France. They fundamentally changed how humanity thinks about justice, power, and the limits of punishment. The Brazen Bull taught us that dehumanization starts with making suffering invisible. The Breaking Will showed how communities can be conditioned to accept cruelty as entertainment. The Oubliette revealed how power corrupts through the ability to make people disappear. And the Judas cradle demonstrated that there truly are limits to acceptable human behavior. Understanding this history is not about glorifying violence. It is about recognizing how easily civilized societies can slip into barbarism when power goes unchecked. Every time we see injustice today and think that is not so bad, we need to remember what worse actually looks like. Here is what I want you to think about. These methods existed because people allowed them to exist. Regular citizens watched, participated, and normalized unspeakable cruelty. The real question is not how could they do this? It is what are we allowing today that future generations will judge us for? Leave a comment below, but not about which method was worst. Tell me what modern practice you think future generations will look back on with the same horror we feel watching medieval torture. Because history does not repeat, but it definitely rhymes. And if you think this video was intense, wait until you see next week's episode about the secret chambers found beneath Versailles. Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell because the history they do not teach you in school is always the most important history to learn.